This past few days that before we took the recess, I used to joke to him that he should prepare to move to our side of the aisle because we'll be moving across in the next parliament. I woke up yesterday around 5:30 and saw news of it on our MP's platform that he had been gunned down. I wasn't so sure about it, but by 6 o'clock there was confirmation from members on the other side in the central region. And it came as a shock to me, but it came as a shock but not as a surprise. We have a country where, and I've done I think 2 posts about this on my social media, my Facebook handle. There's been a lot of, as I expected, backlash as to my position. I hold one simple view. Whether you agree with it or you don't, opinions are like noses, everybody's entitled to one. Can anybody, for the life of me, explain why ministers of state, members of the executive, the president, the vice president, their ministers, chief executives of state institutions, all find and have police protection? They have police protection. Chief executives, deputy chief executives, heads of quasi-governmental institutions are given police protection, armed police protection. With them, when they move in their residences, judges of the Supreme Court and the Appeals Court, in some instances even the High Court, have police protection. They have armed police protection. With them in their offices and in their residences. District chief executives have armed police protection. The leadership of parliament, and what I've done is I've established that there are 3 arms of government. The executive is given ample security protection. The judiciary is given ample security protection. But when it comes to the legislature, which is the only arm of government that is the representation of the people of Ghana, the people who pay the judges, the people who pay the executive, when it comes to parliament, only Mr. Speaker and the 10 leaders of parliament, the majority leader, the deputy majority leader, the chief whip, majority chief whip, and his 2 deputies, the minority leader and his deputy, the minority chief whip and his 2 deputies, only those 10 MPs and Mr. Speaker are given police protection. The remaining 265 members of parliament are deemed not to be worthy of protection. Explain to me, what is one of the criteria for being nominated a minister? It is that person qualifies to be a member of parliament in our constitution. So to be a member of parliament is actually it is a criteria that is looked at, that you must meet the threshold of being a member of parliament before you can be nominated as a minister. Even to qualify to contest as a president, you must meet the basic criteria of being qualified to be a member of parliament. We think that deputy chief executives are demanding or deserving of police protection, but members of parliament are not deserving. And you will come back and ask me, oh, but what about the ordinary Ghanaian?
Before we get to that conversation, hold on, Honorable, hold on. We'll get into that and how the arguments for and against your proposition. But let's invite Colonel Festus Abuaji. He has joined us via telephone. Good morning to you.
Good morning, please, and thanks for having me.
Right. I'm sure you heard the earlier submissions by the Honorable Samneti George, but before you get into that argument about members of parliament asking for state protection now, how did the news of the killing of the Mfantsiman MP come to you?
Well, I answered this question yesterday. simply saying that it was very tragic. The circumstances of the killing, that having introduced himself as a member of parliament, going about his lawful honorable duties, and that becomes, according to the story, the rationale for him to be killed. It's very, very tragic. The impact of that killing on the family and the wider society. Not you we see now the call for members of parliament, to now again all of us that they need special police protection, which I agree with. The only issue I have with the position of parliament is that when they ask that they need special protection, they should equally address the protection for the rest of the citizenry. Indeed, if we go by the principle of leadership by example, then they should, first of all, ensure that there is a police service that is adequately resourced in terms of numbers, in terms of equipment, in terms of training, in terms of everything. Then they have the moral standing to say, okay, now the police must give us protection. And if we're not going to do anything about resourcing the police adequately enough, and certain segments of society say, no, we are special, giving the explanation that the Honorable MP has advanced. So give us protection. That protection to members of parliament, 275 minus the few that he mentioned, I think we came to 265. My argument is that police protection for 265 MPs will mean twice that number, if not 3 times that number. So it's not a simple arithmetic of provide 265 police officers to protect 265 MPs.
You don't think that the legislature,
54 years after independence, we should have a police service that is capable of rendering the service that it has been established to render. So that we stop this debate, perennial debate about who needs police protection and who doesn't need police protection. It becomes a moral issue. So my position is using the moral argument that the elite, the ruling class, or ruling elite in this country are suggesting to the rest of Ghanaians that they are special and therefore they must be given police protection. When they are doing little or nothing, let's say little, to ensure that the police can provide adequate security for the rest of the citizens, we must address that moral dilemma. You see, if we don't address it, and tomorrow ICC is able, by throwing the dice and finding the numbers to provide police protection to parliamentarians, the country may still not be safe. Because it's going to now expose the rest of us, the mobile money vendors, the highway drivers, all manner of persons, farmers, car highs or catching transit highs and so on and so forth. So let's address the issue holistically.
You don't think the MPs have the moral right, you say, to request for state security? What exactly have they not done right?
Yes, and everybody in this country has a moral right. That's the point I'm making. Every citizen of this country, pursuant to the provisions of the Constitution, has a human right to demand that he or she should be protected. So my argument is that we have elected persons into leadership positions, into authority. They have a responsibility to execute the Constitution. So let them first seek to address the welfare and the well-being of the citizens in order to create that ground or the ground for them now to demand protection. The argument seems to be that we are special, like Kenya, where Parliament passed a law enabling them or entitling them to carry pistols. And the question was, what about the rest of the citizenry? So my argument is that, yes, they need protection, but they also have a responsibility, that is government in its entirety, to ensure that the citizenry is adequately protected. So let us do that first. It's a moral debate that we are having, you know.
Okay, let me hear from the MPs I'm in studio with. We've been joined by the Honourable Seth Acheampong, MP for Mpraeso. Let's hear his initial comments, Honourable, before you come in.
Thank you very much, and good morning.
Good morning.
I've listened to many a times the assertions which was made by the immediate past speaker, Colonel Retired Abuaji. We are talking about governance. Colonel is emphasizing on ensuring that the security apparatus is well equipped. The equation of governance, we in the legislature, our sole mandate is to ensure that whatever proposals that emanate out of the executive, we attend to scrutinize and ensure that we are proceeding for and on behalf of the people of this country. The Constitution, which offers us the opportunity to be in that chamber, in its first Article 1 says that sovereignty resides in the people of Ghana. Parliament is the people's forum. That's where all the people meet. Out of the millions of Ghanaians, we've selected 275 to represent the Republic. They are the people representing each and every soul of this country. Are we saying that their lives do not matter? Is that the understanding? Are they the only ones in the equation of governance? Why do we say the executive must be protected and the legislature should not be protected? Why are we protecting the judiciary and the legislature is not protected? The people in which the sovereignty of this country resides reps. I mean, hey, we're kidding ourselves. I've listened to many of those arguments. Forgive me, but many a times the understanding is that the reps are more or less guinea pigs of the conversation. Every person gets up and thinks that the reps do not matter. And when there is a problem, everybody runs to the reps. Unfortunately, that's how society has developed itself, and the conversation surrounding this engagement. People will say, when it matters, that is where you find the aisle. Both sides of the aisle come together. That's not a matter. It matters for human life. We're talking human security. We sit and decide over people's lives and businesses. Don't you believe that you may be hurting people by taking certain decisions? Crime, nobody can define crime unless it happens. You know when people's motives become criminal, unless they are proved, you cannot be able to define them appropriately. And so the work that the reps do in the legislature are very, very crucial and critical, and it borders on their own protection and safety. It is not about protecting a few elites that are ruling. It is not the legislature who is ruling. Per the principle of separation of powers, we have three arms of governance, and we fused, make the government. And so people in the executive, people in the legislature, people in the judiciary, and everybody is being taken care of. The people in the reps are, the moment a matter emanates out that concerns the legislature, everybody jumps on and say, why is it the ruling elite? They are not the only, and we are not the ruling elite. We are reps of our people, and people kill. We spend enough resources of this state to elect a person to represent a categorized segment by boundary of people. Beyond that, we invest in them, state resources, to build capacity. You walk into parliament, you don't have all the knowledge in governance, so we develop you, and then we expect that you would use that development to serve the state. And in the line of service, people's lives are truncated. This is one in a few. If we are offered, and we are typical by nature, Ghanaians, the same crime that affects all Ghanaians affects us. Most of our colleagues are attacked by armed robbers in their homes. They do not get reported, but if you go through the reports, they are equal Ghanaians. It's just that by virtue of the office they hold, they become the ones that all eyes are gearing towards. And so they become a center of attraction. Once a person in that nature becomes center of attraction, it is mandatory in security analysis that you focus on that character and protect that character. It is not a matter of simplicity that the ruling elite wants protection. No, it isn't. As we speak, the ensuing week, which is coming ahead of us, we are going to meet with all the security chiefs, meet with all the security ministers. When people are doing these engagements, how do you expect them to be protected? We need to be protected. It is necessary. Why do we come to work and our precincts where we operate is fully protected and we walk away home freely? When we are affected, then we are crying. We must hold a conversation and understand the entire gamut of issues. It's an entire value chain. You can't just protect one segment of the value chain. I walk into Parliament, there's full established security protecting the edifice, and those of us who operate in it, as we work there, being protected. And you move out of the chamber, you alone and your God. People are watching. You might, because we are indemnified against the speeches we make on the House floor. And so you may say something people may not be happy with. You step out and you're alone. They pounce on you. Are we protecting the state? Are we protecting the individual? The individual forms part of the state. So that individual needs to be protected. And for me, that's my argument. And I think we should look at this conversation from that perspective.
Honorable.
Abena, Colonel Festus Abaji is someone I have a lot of respect for. But unfortunately, I feel like he has bought into the misinformation that is out there, that MPs are making a demand for our own protection. That's not what it is. Look, let me break this down for you. There are at least 350,000 residents in Ningo-Prampram. almost 97,000 of them have registered to vote. In the last election, a majority of the people who are eligible to vote decided that I should go to the Chamber of Parliament and represent their needs and aspirations. Honorable Seth Acheampong is also representing the people of Mpraeso, just like all other 200 and our colleagues, the 275 of us in Parliament. It is our responsibility to hold the executive in check and demand for the ordinary Ghanaian what is due them, even when that many times will pitch you against the might of the executive. At times, your position against even private business interests that comes into Parliament, because maybe it is a private interest partnership with government, and you take a stand against it in the interest of the Ghanaians, the larger Ghanaian public, puts you at risk. It puts your life directly at risk because you are going up against the might of the state. You're going up against the might of private capital in the interest and protection of the mandate that has been given to you by the ordinary Ghanaian people. We think that the Ghanaian people whose voice is made known and whose aspirations are made known through the members of Parliament should foot the bill for the protection of the executive. Yet, those who represent the ordinary Ghanaian people cannot and should not be given protection. When our work puts us against the might of the state and private interest. Abena, when you think about this, look, we are not calling that protect members of Parliament and that is where the case ends. No. We are making the call that the state needs to invest heavily in improving our national security architecture. And people will tell you that, look, go to Sweden. MPs there ride on bicycles. What is the crime rate there? What is the crime rate in the Scandinavian countries? Sweden, Norway, Denmark, where you see those kinds of things. What is the crime rate there? Why don't they go to the US and say that in the US, congressmen also ride like that? Congress, when you go to Congress, Congress has its own police force that protects members of Congress, both congressmen and representatives. When you go to the UK, protection is given by Scotland Yard to members of Parliament. So why are we not using those examples to say that this is what is right? The same way the Secret Service protects the president and all presidential candidates in the US. It's the same way we demanded that all presidential candidates must get protection once they file their nomination. Because you see, that the point must be made. The point must be made loud and clear. We are not saying we are above the ordinary citizen. In fact, we are ordinary citizens given an opportunity to represent ordinary citizens as well. However, Abena, the cost to the taxpayer when an MP loses his life, whether by way of natural causes or by way of unfortunate instances like our colleague Ekow, when the Honorable Acheampong died, natural causes, a by-election was called. Do you know how much it cost the taxpayer?
No, Boache didn't die. Emmanuel died.
Sorry. He's Emmanuel
Acheampong. Emmanuel
Acheampong. Sorry. Forgive me. So Acheampong is his brother who was the energy minister.
Yes.
Forgive me.
Yes.
So Emmanuel Acheampong, the MP for
Ayawa.
Thank you. Thanks for that correction. You saw the cost to the taxpayer by way of the state having to conduct a by-election, by way of what the political parties had to go through. And we think that that is an okay situation where we can have MPs being killed simply because they identify themselves as MPs. And look, Abena, me sitting here, I believe that Parliament itself is to blame for this problem.
Parliament?
Yes. From the Speaker of Parliament to the majority leader to the minority leader. And I say this because I am passionate about this matter. Because Parliament has failed to do what is right. We have it within our mandate and our power to ensure that members of Parliament are protected. But we failed. I'll tell you what. There is a growing perception that it is okay to attack a member of Parliament and you will walk free. It happened to me in Ayawa West Wagon. From the Speaker of Parliament to the majority leader and minority leader, they were all deaf and dumb. They were all quiet about that attack. When Parliament could have on its own established its might using its privileges committee, but because it was Sam George. Then Honorable Akufo-Addo was attacked in his constituency by his constituents. It had to take his armed police protection because he's a minister of state. If he was not a minister of state, he would have been lynched in Otafo. And at that time, I started hearing whispers on the chamber in the corridors of Parliament that they wanted to do something, and I said I would oppose it on the floor. What is sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. If Parliament was quiet when it happened to me, it should be quiet when it happens to anybody in Parliament. After that, the Deputy Minister for Fisheries, Atu is that his name? The Deputy Minister for Fisheries is from I think Ekow area or so.
It's not Atu
No.
It's
The Deputy Minister for Fisheries.
right.
He was also attacked in his constituency. Again, because he's a deputy minister and because of the virtue of the fact that he had a police guard, his police guard had to protect him. Again, Parliament was mute, deaf and dumb. So people are emboldened to think that you can attack a member of Parliament and it is fine. It is culture. You are the guy in your community. That is the culture. Parliament itself, by way of its inaction. And this is simply because the leadership of Parliament gets police protection. They are treated different from the rest of us. Mr. Speaker drives in a convoy of over 3-4 vehicles with heavy police protection.
But you are in that chamber
Chairman
as well.
Samples, who is majority leader, Haruna Idris, who is minority leader, they have police protection. So what affects me and Achi as ordinary members of Parliament doesn't affect them.
But you all have been in that house.
No, we have not. We are all not in leadership. That's why I said there are 10 leaders of Parliament and the Speaker.
So what have you done about it in that house?
What affected all of us affects them. Me, I don't determine the order of business. The majority leader determines the order of business. Look, if Parliament decided that when the appropriation bills come, we will approve the appropriation bill without a budget for the Ministry of Interior. Then the Ministry of Interior, which controls the Ghana Police Service, will put up security for members of parliament.
Okay.
But you see, let us be clear what we are asking for. We are not asking that you should provide security for members of parliament. The you must have a short-term plan, a medium-term plan, and a long-term plan.
Okay.
The long-term plan, I beg you, I'll wrap here in 1 minute. The long-term plan is to have a Ghana where a law professor is not killed over 450 Ghana cedis and 2 phones by his cleaner and other people. Because you have a security service that is up and doing. You have crime at its lowest ebb. That is the kind of Ghana we want to see. But that's the long-term plan. That's a plan that's going to take years to achieve, because you would have to do a systematic review and reform of your police service. You would have to have proper investment into the security apparatus and boost your numbers, boost the weaponry of your police service. That is not a snap of the finger fix. Medium term is where you have a Ghana where the citizens even have trust in the police service and the security services. This robbery, we are told, went on for about an hour and a half. Where was police presence? There is no trust in our security services as we speak. The short-term measure is for you to provide security for high-value targets. That is basic.
All right.
And so that's why I'm saying that we will come to the place where everybody will then decide to carry a weapon and defend himself. And that is where we will create Belgium. Tomorrow, if a member of parliament takes a weapon and sees a mob coming towards him and fires into that, you come and blame the member of parliament. Who should wait and die?
Let's bring in Franklin Cudjoe now, president of IMANI Africa. Hello, Franklin.
Good morning, Abena. Good morning to my good friends in the studio.
Good morning, Franklin. He's joining us via Zoom. Franklin, are you there?
The rain is affecting his network. but he's in Western Togolese.
Oh, he's joined us now.
I thought he was a Western Togolese. And so
hello, Franklin.
Yes, can you hear me?
Oh, we are having challenges hearing you. We'll make another attempt. Okay, we'll make another attempt to hear from you. And let's see if we can connect to Acheampong. He's a private legal practitioner. Hello, lawyer.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you? I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I'm having challenges with that connection. I'm unable to hear Acheampong speak as well as Franklin. So we'll continue the conversation in the studio, and then when we have a better connection to them, we'll bring them into the discussion. Honorable Seth Acheampong, yes, so the argument has been that the people you represent, the people who give you the power, there have been several instances of these robbery attacks, them losing their lives. Just last week, there was an attack on the Accra Kumasi highway where a VIP bus driver and 2 passengers were shot. But the call only becomes louder when it's one of your own.
That is the perception. That is the perception.
Is it?
It is. We've been on the executive each and every day when a crime breaks. Under this administration, we have invited the security chiefs on countless occasions to Parliament for and on behalf of the people of this country when crime has broken. When people are shot, we quickly write to them and expect them to come and offer us answers. We're expecting them. This meeting we're holding next week is threefold. One is what happened in the Volta region. 2 is the general security appreciation driving into 2020 general elections. And 3, the immediate killings of our colleague and the other person from the NIA. These are very imminent, and we need to give, like Sam George spoke of, the various strategies they have put in place for the short to medium and longer term. That is what we're expecting from the security services. And this is not just going to be a conversation with only the police service, it's the entire security architecture. So we are meeting with the Ministry of National Security, we are meeting with the Ministry of Defense. Because
please hold on to that,
right?
and let's connect with our panelists who are joining us via Zoom. Hello, Franklin.
I hope you are able to be successful.
Yes, it's much better now.
He's connected to the internet.
The remaining time on your Zoom is 4 minutes. So I don't know whether...
Okay, we'll try and invite you to another meeting. Please go ahead. Yes.
Let me just greet everybody. And look, I think this conversation is very timely. Even if we are discussing the fact that everybody else is security is taken care of. The fact of the matter is that we must be considering long-term effects of policies rather than short-term measures. I must just point out, though, that what happened was a robbery, and it does not necessarily mean that the people who were being robbed at gunpoint for almost an hour, lives do not matter. It's unfortunate, and I commiserate with the family of the late MP. I commiserate with Parliament and commiserate with the rest of the country. But it must be pointed out quite clearly that what happened was an aberration of our security situation in this country. And I think that we shouldn't reduce the conversation to just suggesting that an MP or MP should be given more than adequate security. If the story is really retold, and as we've heard from the narrations of the eyewitnesses, this was not as if the MP was targeted necessarily. Was apparently way behind. I'm just trying to point out the fact that these were hoodlums who had actually held a group of passengers and in a more or less, for lack of a better word, in a convoy for close to an hour. It tells you what it is everybody faces in this country. I could also be asking for security. I was robbed at gunpoint and my car was taken away from me as well. And I suspect that I think it's important that the government's duty in any country is to protect its citizens and its property and their property. I think that is what we need to be focusing on. It's unfortunate this has happened. Look, there was a time we had a conversation with the police, and I recall that they were lamenting the paucity of munitions as well as the men. And I think we should be focusing on that. The police whole transformation agenda, which we had opportunity to look into, had serious gaps. I mean, some of them were complaining that they have 40 types of weapons, right? And so the point I'm making is that they don't have the men. The men they have themselves are not really well accommodated, and all kinds of issues. I think we should focus more on how to provide adequate security for the entirety of the country, while we lament the loss of very valuable citizens as well. I think I'll end here so that the remaining 1 minute, my good friend Acheampong can have his back.
Lawyer Paul.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Good morning. Please go ahead.
Well, good morning to all. I must say that I really commend my friend, Honorable Sam George in particular. Almost all the points that I have noted here have been adequately dealt with by him.
Yeah, so but
the angle I was going to take on, which he finally also addressed, is that with all due respect, blame no one than Parliament itself. Blame no one than Parliament itself, and not just leadership of Parliament. As Honorable Sam George says, there are many tools available to Parliament to ensure that the executive, under whose supervision, or in terms of the governance architecture, the police service, the security services are placed, comply with any demands, legitimate demands, and for me, provision of security for members of Parliament is a legitimate demand. We all know that deputy ministers have police protection, and we have a number of deputy ministers who have been appointed from Parliament. So that also reduces the number. The Constitution also stipulates that more than half of ministers must come from Parliament. So when you put all the ministers together, deputy ministers together, it will...
All right. We will have a lawyer back, but it's time to take a break here on The Big Issue. My name is Abena Nyame-Champedu. I'm here with the Honorable Seth Acheampong, Mpraeso MP, Honorable Sam Nati George, Ningo-Prampram MP. Colonel Festus Abuaje is on with us. Yao Opong is a private legal practitioner, and also Franklin Cudjoe, President of IMANI Africa. And you listening to us from your homes or wherever you find yourself. We'll be back after this break. Don't go away.
Representing a country is no small feat.
Because in Ghana, the love for Israel is so real, People are nursing it from home, from churches, and then you are walking in such a positive atmosphere and all the doors are open for you.
View the lives of the diplomats in Ghana through their very own eyes and see how they make Ghana their home.
I always loved it. I love the remains of African culture in Brazil. I am very interested in the way Africans were able to, amidst those horrible conditions, they were capable of transforming their African heritage.
Join me, Apiako Sarah Mashong Abe, on Diplomatic License every Saturday at 5 p.m. only on Citi TV.
That's kind of cynical. I mean, because I'm not sure that all that we have done have necessarily been to the benefit of middle class or wealthy people. So we will get to that.
Tune in to The Point of View this and every Monday and Wednesday at 9 p.m. as I, Bernard Avle, get the right guests, ask them relevant questions on issues that matter to you.
When MDD came, because they were not putting money in the sinking fund.
They were not putting money in the sinking fund?
Yes.
That's why this curve is going up?
The money was going to the sinking fund, but it was not being applied to debt.
I think that there's a lot of apocryphal conspiracy theories around. And it's not different from 5G causes coronavirus, COVID-19 and things like that. So there's been this long-term held belief that somehow there are some people that have planned that they will bust hundreds of thousands of people to come and change Ghanaian electoral outcome. There is no evidence for it. There is absolutely no evidence for it.
I am saying that we have very professional herbalists in this country whose capacity I know because I've tried it. But also there are quack ones within them. And the earlier we weed them out, the better for them.
Remember, The Point of View is live every Monday and Wednesday at 9 p.m. only on Citi TV.
The Point of View is powered by Airtel Tigo. Have you heard that Airtel Tigo calls from 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. and Airtel Tigo money transfers are now free on new SIMs? Now you know. Airtel Tigo. Life is simple. And Lydia Contraceptive. With Lydia, you truly decide.
About to change your Sunday night for the better.
Set your timers and join us every Sunday night starting from the 7th of June on The Upside Down Show. We will bring you the most captivating guests and explore the most amazing stories.
We will dazzle you with real-life situations and examine mind-blowing topics. Join me, Frema Binyami,
and me, Atokwamna, every Sunday at 7 p.m. on Citi TV. Are you ready?
Citi TV is live on DSTV. Go to channel 363. On GoTV, access Citi TV on channel 182. On a digital TV, please press the menu button on the remote control and run a new search on your TV. Take note that without an antenna, you cannot...
right, you're welcome back to The Big Issue on Citi FM and Citi TV. My name is Abena Mpraeso. You can be part of the conversation. You can send us a WhatsApp message on 055-058-5832 or on 0549-986-996, 0549-986-996. We are having a conversation about security generally emanating from the unfortunate killing of the Mfantsiman MP yesterday. So we will continue with that. Lawyer Opon was making a submission. We'll try and get to... Okay, so he's ready now. Lawyer. Okay. Please go ahead. Okay. Technology has its own ways of
Can you hear me now?
sometimes. Yes, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
I was making the point in support for the Honorable St. George, head of the Jata team, said that blame Parliament, because Parliament can decide not to even approve of certain requests made to them by the executive if certain legitimate demands are not met. Which legitimate demands have to be provided by the executive, for example. And so district chief executives, municipal chief executives, I understand we have about 265 or so of them. They have security. At least they have police people they travel with in their vehicles, even if there is none in their residences, which I doubt. So what makes it so extraordinary to provide the same security for members of parliament? And as I said, if you deduct the deputy ministers who are from parliament and already have security, and the ministers, majority of whom must come from parliament, and so they are, then you are just talking about 170 members of parliament, and if you deduct the heads that Honorable St. George referred to, then you are just having at least about 150 or 160 members of parliament. You may not be able to get each of them police protection in their residences, but whenever they are moving from or to parliament, and that would mean even going to perform the functions of parliament, even in their own constituencies, they must have security. And if parliament cannot assert it, as they have not done for provision of vehicles for themselves, something I was speaking about severally, and yet to approve of numerous vehicles for the executive and the other organs, and they will have to borrow, find loans to purchase vehicles for themselves, blame no one but blame parliament itself. You make the laws, you approve of the appropriation bill, you decide how much any or each of the state departments and agencies should be given. And if you really want to assert your real position as the representatives of the people, and I agree that we spend so much which cannot in any way replace the life of a member of parliament or any other person. And we spend so much to even make sure that we get a representative or somebody to replace a member of parliament that has unfortunately maybe lost his life. The argument also about protection of the citizenry also holds good. In my view, Honorable St. George, again, forgive me, but today I'm with you. He also mentioned that he queried or maybe insinuated or asked a rhetorical question about the crime rate in the Scandinavian country. But the other question too is, how is it that the crime rate in those countries is low? Is it because they have sufficient laws to ensure that crime has reduced? Is it because, and it's not, in my view, because they are inherently virtuous, and that those of us in the other countries are consistently engaged in vices? I don't believe so. So we can also study from them. How come crime rate is so low that even in some of them, some of those countries, their president can just decide to ride on a bicycle? I remember one time an attorney general came to court, and some of his colleagues asked him, "Oh, so just within 2 days after you were appointed, you are afraid that all of us around you can even shoot you. You now have a police escort." But that is the protocol, and I think that Parliament has not just been fair to itself over time for not providing this very important, legitimate facility for itself, but is so much in a hurry to provide it for others. For me, let members of Parliament go back to Parliament. It's not command, I'm just asking if they should, and ensure that appropriate facilities to enable them perform their work without fear or favor. And as Honorable Sub-Judge said, you may even take a position against a private entity and put your life at risk. These are very important matters. Whilst they are passing laws to make it very difficult for people to perhaps be encouraged to engage in crime, it is important that physical facilities should, including police protection, should also be given them. But for the information, judges, I think with the exception of some Supreme Court judges, do not have security in their homes. But at least we know that they are usually accompanied by one in their vehicles to and from work. But let us also establish a fundamental fact that there are certain crimes that can happen, whether or not you have a police protection. Because in this country, ordinary citizens have even killed police officers, murdered police officers in this country, murdered in a brutal way some army officers, or at least one that is in recent memory. I should be forgiven for the reminder. So that may not be the absolute panacea, but at least the idea or the knowledge that these facilities are protected gives even the members of Parliament and the rest of us some comfort that reasonably they can go about performing their functions. But ultimately, we should ensure that whatever is happening in the attested areas in the Scandinavian countries should happen here. And let us also not kid ourselves that, oh, the ordinary Ghanaian is afraid of killing a fly. That has never been true. We can be as wicked as any person anywhere in the world. And sometimes even the way people, death is painful, but the way people even murder an individual makes you wonder whether we are indeed persons who cannot harm a fly. So we wish the members of Parliament, the family of this particular MP, and our own former professor also, and their families, the person who was also killed yesterday elsewhere. And let us, as Ghanaians, encourage ourselves that crime doesn't pay. What are you going to gain substantially after just killing a person in such a way? You've forgotten he has family, he has children, he has people who look up to him. Let us just believe in ourselves that crime will not pay, but rather virtues will pay.
All right. Colonel Abuaji, the MPs talk about the work they do and how that makes them easy targets for such crimes. Don't you agree that on that score, then providing them with security is paramount?
I recognize the cogent argument being made by my good friend, I think they call him Jata. I'm not
Some George, yeah.
And then Honorable,
Seth Acheampong, yeah.
That I've met a couple of times. I agree perfectly with their line of argument. My position is that, first of all, in terms of analysis, we do not know the motivations or the motives for the killing of these MPs. We are tending to assume that they were killed because they were MPs. Yes, some of them might have been attacked and killed because they were MPs. But probably it is not all of them. And like some of the other panelists, I think like a phone that I haven't met again, has said. And I think the other gentleman that I communicated with recently, some of them might have fallen into a situation where, you know, they were exposed to danger. So first of all, we need the police to give us the statistics and disaggregate the statistics to let us know how many MPs, how many who, how many what, you know, have been killed by criminals. That's one side of the argument. Now we come to the moral argument that I'm making. They're not tending to accept the fact that by demanding, and they use the word demand, or the word demand has come into the conversation, by demanding that because they are special, because it costs so much to replace one of them in the event of death, they need special protection. And they need special protection because of the work that they do. In the same vein, I'm trying to suggest that they must, for security for the ordinary citizen. Now, I find it a bit difficult. Yes, I agree that there are three arms of government. But government is government. In our system of setup, if you take parliament out, we don't have a government. So whether you are a legislator or whether you are executive or judiciary, you are part of the government. So in that context, you have influences, like one of them has suggested, you know, that you can influence a lot of decisions that augur well for the well-being of the Ghanaians. If not for 64 years, at least for 27, 28 years in this fourth republic, what priority have we given to security? It does appear that security has been put on the back burner, and we're only throwing crumbs at the security sector. And only when MPs become victims of crime, then we hear loud voices. So I accept what they are saying. I agree that they are making reasonable arguments. But those same arguments must be made for and on behalf of the ordinary citizen. Now, in the security context, let me come to the police. I've said it elsewhere that, yes, the police may not have the right numbers. I'm told, I stand to be corrected, that the ratio police-public police is about 1 to 900, almost, instead of the 1 to 500 that the UN, recommends. So we have a serious gap. Why haven't we been able for 28 years to have a police that is up to scale, up to strength, before we even talk about the equipment? Let us invest in that conversation and ensure that within the next 1, 2, 3, 4 years, there is a plan. Not to just beef up numbers, but to ensure that we have a police that is adequate to provide security for all. The point about the Scandinavian is that there is a concept of security umbrella that is provided in such a way that it becomes difficult for criminals to operate or for crime to take place. In this country, that security umbrella is woefully lacking. So you take the MPs there for 1 hour, 1.5 hours, or 2 hours. Security agencies didn't know that anything like that was happening. But that is after the fact. What about before? If in this country we didn't know that in a certain part of the country, some criminals are operating with the intention or intent votes, then there has been a crime intelligence failure. So I've been emphasizing that even if the police hasn't got the numbers, we should invest in crime detection and crime intelligence. So we don't need detectives in all villages, but definitely we can have informants in every village in the country. So the informants will keep the police informed. The architecture, I think, is lacking, and we need to fix that. We must find the money to give to the police to pay informants to inform the police about who is undertaking criminal activities in certain areas. If we do all of these things, we might help. It might help. The other thing that I want to emphasize is that when was the last time that we heard that the police are cordoned off a certain suburb of Accra or Kumasi with the intention to find the criminals and retrieve the illegal weapons and ammunition in circulation. It's not happening. So the police in military terms, the criminals are having a field day because the state is not there. The police is not visible. They are not chasing, they are not going after the criminals. So the criminals all the time to plan and choose the place and the time when they're going to mount their attacks. If with the limited numbers and resources they have, the police can have some operations, that are proactive enough to find the criminals, it might work. Let me mention the stop and search, let's say of Moto, which is a platform that is used to attack mobile money vendors and so on and so forth. It has been recommended that there must be a stop and search operation against motor riders and so on. Let's answer the question. When have we seen that the police is concertedly stopping motorbikers, searching them in order to find out whether they are up to any evil or not? So there are little things that we can do as a country, as a society, as a state that we are not doing. Like the Honorable MP St. George said, the short term is not only giving protection to MPs. The short term is also about resourcing the police. There are things that we can give to the police immediately to enhance their capacities and capabilities. If we push it to the medium to long term, a lot of damage is going to be done. Yes, we might end up protecting MPs, but we will expose other Ghanaians. The numbers that we are talking about, whether it is 160, 170, or 260, multiplied by 2. And I think Lawyer Fon added that we need to add the DCs and MDDCs, MC, whatever it is. If you add all of them, you realize that the police numbers begin to shrink. Granted that the police is also on an international operation. Some of them will be on leave, maternity, welfare, whatever it is. The police don't have the resources. You see, the vehicles that we give them, the 4,000 or so, 400 that the government gave a few months ago or some months ago, go and do the inspection and see whether all of them are roadworthy. Look, even the ambulances that we saw giving out, I've been to a certain workshop and I've seen about 2 or 3 of them parked there for servicing. They cannot be on the road for certain defects or certain malfunctions or whatever it is. So there is a lot that we need to do. And even when we give the police the vehicles, I've always asked the question, if you give the police vehicles in June, for instance, did you ask them to establish a budget for fuel and maintenance in January when the budget was being read? So you can give 400 vehicles, but trust me, the police wouldn't have the budget to fuel and maintain the vehicles. So there needs to be a certain comprehensiveness to security. Let's place security as a high priority and see what forms of security. On that, or in that context, let me mention, for instance, the helicopters. The fact that we're giving police helicopters doesn't mean security is going to improve. Because I know from experience in other countries what police helicopters are used for. They will end up being used for welfare and administration in the same way that police vehicles are being used for welfare and administration when they should be used for other operational duties. So, but in terms that they mentioned elsewhere, police officers don't go to work in police vehicles. Everybody goes to work driving in their own vehicles. And then when there are operations, they jump into the police vehicle. Here it is the other way around. Every morning you see police vehicles with families taking children and wives to wherever it is. So the resources may be limited, but they are even more under pressure because of the way and manner in which those resources are used. So let me conclude by accepting, all the arguments on either side. Let us, as a people, collectively demand that the state, provide security for all. For me, it's a moral issue based on the arguments that have been made, for instance, for the executive to be buying very expensive vehicles, that consume fuel and so on and so forth. The executive cannot find the money to to adequately establish and equip a police force or service that can deliver security for all. That is where the moral argument comes in.
All right.
That we have designated certain people so special that the meager resources of the state must be used for their security. And the rest of us must go and fend for ourselves. That is not the country that, the security that we want for the country.
Okay, thank you, Colonel. Let's come to the studio now. Honorable Acheampong, you were making a point about what Parliament has done and is doing so far about the crime rates in the country.
Certainly, because we are there for the people. And so all that we do is to ensure that adequate security in respect of public safety is provided for the nation at large. If you listen to all the speakers, everybody is talking about how is the preparedness of our state security. And so that is what Parliament does. That's all we do. We talk about them. You'll find me defending and speaking to some of the issues that, for instance, was immediately spoken to by Colonel Festus-Apojo retired. The police issues. It is not all the vehicles that are used for welfare issues. You may cite some instances where you have welfare. And for instance, if we are procuring helicopters for the police service, it's to enhance crime. The population is increasing. The old methods of preventing and detecting crime, we need to improve upon them. And you can only do that when you have more tools.
You spoke about how even these resources are deployed. So, for instance, they are getting more vehicles, but how are they being used?
Exactly, those were the ones he talked about being used for welfare issues. Those were his concerns when he raised that they will be used for welfare issues. More or less, you find police personnel and some of their immediate associations. So that is on the side, but that is not the generic use of all police vehicles. We find visibility with police vehicles parading on our roads with police armed men going on an operation. We see them, and the regular use of the vehicles. And at the same time, I know that the police institution, not only the police institution, all the security services, they have their projections. They know, for instance, by the end of this year, what are they going to do? The beginning of the year, what are they going to do? We in this meeting of Parliament is going to approve of funds for the transition post the elections on 7th December. And by the financial coming into end of the financial year, 31st December of 2020, the new budget that will be read will be post the election. And when the new administration is sworn into office on 7th of January, after 31st of December till March, end of 31st March, we are taking a decision in this meeting of Parliament for and on behalf of the Republic of Ghana. So we vote monies on account for that transition period. All expenses for the police service is already captured in there because that is a budget which goes to the same budgetary process, the cycle. And so these are things that are done. Let us educate ourselves and educate people to understand and appreciate this. We may have issues where, for instance, some fuel bills due to unplanned operations that the security services embark upon. But that notwithstanding, definitely that is the essence of having a contingency in your budget program. And so all these things are catered for. I think we need to retool and ensure that we've given all our security services enough to work for our state.
As it stands now, you chair Parliament's Defence and Interior Committee.
Yes, please.
Would you say they have enough? Are you satisfied with the general security outlook of the country?
It's very subjective. They have what have been provided for by this administration, and that I give thumbs up to this administration. They've done very well by improving upon the vehicles that they use, the vehicles that they work with, and their own wear and arms that they use. But this is a growing population, and so each and every day as you provide, you have more to provide for. The military is being provided for. The immigration service is being provided for. We're providing arms because they are for our border patrol. We are providing for the police service for internal security, domestic security, homeland security. And we are providing for all of them, giving them the necessary tools. That's why the helicopter is one of the things that we are talking about. Because of the increase in population and the sophistication of crime today, if you are developing your infrastructure in terms of road network and expansion, and you're giving good routes, you must think how best do you also ensure that when people are going to commit crime, how do you prevent it? Sometimes some areas are not very motorable. How do you survey the area in an operation to arrest crime? So if you have some surveillance equipment, that is why you have some helicopters going to come in, and then you would use it to ensure that protection is adequately provided for. But I must say that, like it was alluded to, enough but not all. We need more. I speak for on behalf of the security services. Yes, we have provided enough for them, but we still need more. That is what I'm saying.
Over the past weeks, there has been incidents of crime. Talk about the law professor, talk about the highway robbery, and some incidents in the Ashanti region as well. For you, do you think the security services are on top of their game in preventing crime? We are in an election year, Honorable.
They are very much on top of their game. I chanced on a meeting on a security dialogue this week, and the plan of the police was played out to us, was offered to us. And I chanced on more other plans. And let me say this. Sometimes when we say the security people are not on top of their job, we are not having guns sitting on our heads as we sit in this studio. We are operating in an ambience which is free. That tells you that there is some level of security. The fact that we have reportage of incidents happening in the system, and this is by virtue of yourselves, the media. Today we have plural media. So whatever happens anywhere, in any nook, in any cranny, we get it immediately by the light, the speed, just like the speed of light. And so for me, that is an enhancement in identifying news. And so we must be commensurate in our attempt to ensure that all these things are sorted. I see that we have crime. And there's one fact I always state. There is no security-proof state in the world. No 100% security-proof state in the world. Nowhere. But I would forever and ever call on my human security. The best form of security of every state is its own people. The moment we are able to be each other's keeper and have fellow feeling for one another, we will share information. We will help protect one another. When I hear that some is going to be endangered by an action, it is incumbent upon me as a fellow to share with him, for him to stay. We need to raise the alertness level of our individuals. This is part of education that general population must all be apprised with and know. But I will say the security services are on top of their situation. That's why we have a good public safety in this country.
Honorable.
Maybe this will depart a bit from agreeing with Achi, because the evidence does not necessarily support in totality his position. You have a security service, and here when we talk about the security services, I'm going to be zeroing in more on the Ghana Police Service, and to a large extent the BNI and national security, because those are homeland security apparatus. I'll keep the Ghana Army out of this, and because they are more external until and unless they are required. But you only need to speak to the men in the service to realize that morale is low. And it is evident on the streets. Look, first and foremost, we have a challenge with numbers. And that's why, if you look at the NDC's plan going forward, we speak about a reform of the police and security services. And we're talking about, under our 1 million jobs Acheampong policy, one of the key areas we're going to be stepping up numbers and doing massive recruitment is the police. We're looking to recruit 35,020 more men into the police service because we need to bring ourselves close to the UN ratio of, I think, 1 to 550.
The ratio is 1 to 550.
Yeah.
No, is it, yeah,
1 to 550 or 1 500 thereabout. We need to get 35,020 more men to hit that ratio, and that's something that the NDC is committed to doing under our big push on the Jumapa agenda. But it goes beyond just having the men. It goes beyond just the recruitment. It goes to the quality of men you're recruiting, and that's the problem in the police service today. If you pick the Ghana police service today, and I don't think we need to be politically correct here. We just need to be blunt because you don't know who is next. If you have a police service that's being heavily politicized, and policemen who have been in the service for 10, 15 years feel very demoralized because they're seeing new recruits who are not going through the right processes for recruitment, who are not who under normal circumstances should not make the cut for security services, come into the security services by virtue of who you know in government.
But who caused that? We've had that problem for quite some time now.
You are having that situation in West from today. That's the problem. Yes. You see,
how do you know this?
And that's what I'm telling you. We'll all speak to the security people.
Tell me.
You have recruitments going on. People know how long it takes you to go to depot, through the college, or wherever, when you're being recruited. And today, in 2 months, people go through the point they are wearing uniforms.
What evidence do you have on that?
Oh, the minority has even done a press conference on this matter. Because we have evidence of it. Look, Archie is our chairman on of Security and Intelligence Committee in Parliament.
Are you saying he knows this?
I'm saying ask him if in the last 3 months or 5 months there's not been recruitment into the security services.
And you said these people passed out in 2 months. Is that what you're saying?
Wait, Abena, relax. Don't get excited. Have you seen any advertisement in the past 6 months of recruitment going on into any of our security services? So on what basis are you seeing recruitments going on? In 2 months, 3 months, they've been giving uniform to go out.
Honorable Acheampong, are you aware of this?
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, this is a matter that I always want to encourage my colleagues to.
I thought you let me finish then.
You hold on.
Okay.
When this administration took office, we advertised for recruitment into the security services. It was oversubscribed. The expectation was over our own eyes.
That was 2017.
That was 2017. One service alone had clearance for only 1,000 people to recruit because that's what our budget could afford for at the time. We had over 87,000 people. That tells you that you have a security challenge because the unemployment gap is huge. That's what we inherited. And so over the period, you had 37,000 people applying for a particular 1,000 job. Subsequently, over 5,000 of them qualifies. So when you have vetted them and seen that some are good, you serialize your recruitment. And these are things you have already taken their monies for by ensuring that they purchase forms before you recruit them. And so there is nothing untoward in ensuring that consistency is maintained. And that is all that we do. Our friends do not understand that administrative practice and say that...
And did they pass out in 2 months?
No, never, ever. Nobody can go into training and come out in 2 months.
5 months?
Nobody. 6 months, a minimum.
I know it's 6 months, but so you are telling us that the people did not pass out in 2 or 5 months?
No, they didn't pass out in 2 months. They did not.
Let's hear him.
Let me finish from his narrative. Then I'll come.
You let him make his point.
The fine English that actually has spoken here is the fact that recruitment has gone on without any advertisement. He's admitted that. Good. Now the question that I would allow you ask him subsequent when I land is, when were the people, when did this recruitment go on? And are they still in college or have they been passed out? Then we calculate the number of months. Okay. But you see, it is this kind of action that is affecting the morale within the service. Again, it goes all the way to the IGP's office. IGP James Bonoa. We shouldn't wait for Christmas to have Operation Father Christmas, where then you see the police all over the place. Under IGP Cudjoe, you had the police visibility program, that ensured that the police was visible on the streets. I think it was even under IGP Acheampong that program was cancelled or scaled down. And the current IGP has inherited it, and he's not sent it back to that level. If you have police visibility, it is unacceptable that a robbery should go on for over an hour and a half. And there is no police presence, there is no patrol team, nothing. An hour and a half. You can't tell me that that is a state of security. The amount of murder, robbery, killing, carnage on our streets, the brazen effrontery, is simply because people know that the police service is at its lowest morale in a long time. And that is where the problem is. Because it looks like our focus is all on the elections. We are gearing up for the election. So if you hear the regional commander for Greater Accra speaking to his men, telling them to reduce sexual activity geared towards election. We have lives beyond election. The livelihood and protection of Ghanaians goes beyond who becomes MP or who becomes president.
But that specific program was about the elections.
No,
so that
Abena,
speech to them was on the elections.
No, Abena, and that's where the problem is. If a regional commander's focus is not on your day-to-day security, but more on a one-day event that is over 60 days away, and is right now gearing and shaping the minds of his men towards that, why should the focus of our security services be on election day and not on our daily survival? If you keep killing people and armed robbers keep killing people, how many people will be alive to go and vote? The focus of our security services should not be on one-day events. It should be on the protection of everybody. And again, you see, there's one reason why I support the presence of, or the policy of housing policemen in communities instead of in the barracks. Okay? I'll give you a typical example. Where I live, in Accra, before I moved there, I had come and I had been robbed 3 times in 6 months.
Okay.
And so I have made personal arrangements which any citizen can do. You pay for it to have police protection on the basis of what had happened. So just in the evening, that happens. What that does is that in my environment, everybody now has a certain sense of safety and security because of the armed policeman every evening. So imagine if Ekow had an armed police guard in his vehicle yesterday. When that attack happened, what would have been the response? There would have been an armed policeman. I'm trying to remember which of our colleagues. One of our colleagues, who is a minister, on the going towards the Chiman, ran into an armed robbery, and his armed police guard opened fire. Akufo-Addo. Fantastic. The Minister for Aviation. So imagine if the Minister for Aviation, who is an MP, was not a minister and didn't have his armed police guard. He possibly could have faced the same fate as Ekow. So you see that in providing security, when you see ministers leave and they have protection at home, it is not just that house that is protected, but there's a circumference of protection around that area. So even if you won't provide police protection for the homes of MPs, for example, let's decide that we know where MPs live. There are police stations in those vicinities. So have a certain patrol radius in that area. It is not for the benefit of only the MP, but it covers the entire community. Look, the UK MP who was stabbed to death, Cox, irrespective of how much a state provides security. And look, the UK, or well, let me not say the UK at whole, but I think the UK in the whole, but London especially, is the most watched city. It has the most number of CCTV cameras per square meter in the world. Yet, in broad daylight, someone was stabbed, and we still have knife issues. So like Archie said, there is no 100% security situation. However, are we saying what we have today is the best? No. And you see me, and this is my last point, Abena. I think that MPs have just, we have allowed ourselves to become the guinea pigs, like Archie puts it, the whipping boys. And look, I hold a view. it is not just security where Parliament appears to be cheated. Everybody thinks that every MP overnight becomes rich because they see you driving a V8. True or false? The V8 is seen as a status thing. When a minister is appointed, he's given a V8 for the function of his work. The minister, his job is literally from his house to his ministry, except he's going on trek. Okay? Judges are given Prados and all of that. They are given 4x4 vehicles for the performance of their duty. All of them, it is at the expense of the state. When a minister leaves office, he hands over the car to the state and goes home. A member of parliament who is by law mandated to go to his constituency and do work, you will not provide him a vehicle. You take a loan for him, and every month you deduct huge amounts of money from our salary. Yet people see us and think that we are enjoying that car loan. I'm saying buy a fleet of 275 vehicles. Don't take any money from my salary. I don't need the state to take a loan for me to buy a Land Cruiser. Let there be a workstation vehicle assigned to Ningo-Prampram.
Okay.
If today Sam George is the MP, when he gets to Parliament, he will use that vehicle to service the people of Ningo-Prampram. When Sam George leaves and another person comes, that person will continue to use that vehicle. So that if I want to buy a car, let me go and contract my own loan. Let people stop seeing MPs as people who have become rich overnight.
All
the
right.
V8 you see, it is not free. It is not. We pay for it.
We get your point. Let me bring in the views of
we put all of these things in perspective.
viewers and our listeners, Honorable. Thank you. Hold on, before you come with Honorable Acheampong, Francis from Mpraeso says, you know way before you enter Parliament that the state cannot provide security for you MPs. Yet to find money to enter Parliament, find money to protect yourselves. 275 of you are crying for security. How about the generality of the ordinary Ghanaian who go through these incidents on a daily basis? Okay. Johnny, yours is a long one. Ghana, unfortunately, is becoming a violent society. Having said that, we are also a reactive society instead of proactive. The Honorable Minister, must talk about solutions like providing street lights for all of us and not for the politicians. Okay.
Even the street lights, when they're provided, after 6 months, they don't work. There are street lights on the motorway, they don't work.
Jones, Adoboy from La. Good morning, Citi. As much as we grieve and condemn this dastardly act in no uncertain terms, politicians should be aware that straight bullets does not discriminate between ordinary citizens and a politician. It is therefore incumbent on them to put in place the appropriate structures and systems to curb such unwanted incidents. Okay. Alan from Chantine. It is unfortunate that successive governments in this country have not deemed security to be one of the topmost priority. The threats we face today call for the police to be retooled and reinforced in terms of personnel. Al-Hassan in Koforidia, you say what the MPs don't understand is that security is a system, not immediate. If MPs are given security, what about their families? Will they be provided security too? I'll take this final one from Farouk in Tamale North. The level of insecurity now in the country is totally disturbing. Government must wake up, you say. I'll try and bring in a lot more. But let me connect to Franklin on this, his final take on this subject before we move on. Franklin. Okay. I think we'll have lawyer Yaopong now.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. So your final take on it, the concern is that there seemed to be some sense of insecurity, not just with parliamentarians, but generally.
Yes, I think there's some point to be made on that opinion. I said that I think over time we are gradually now moving away from security provided by humans, by and large. I mean, the use of CCTV has become very effective to the extent that people know that where they are effectively kept, they may commit an offense, but they are more likely to be arrested and convicted than not. And that alone plays a very important role in prevention of crime. I mean, elsewhere, I mean, UK, for example, people know that persons of age, or sometimes even children, have been specifically placed in certain properties or buildings at vantage points where they just stay at home and watch around. When they see a person loitering or roaming suspiciously, immediately the police will be called and they will come and interrogate the person to find out what he was doing at that particular time. Also, public vehicles have in them CCTVs. So when crime is committed, it may even be in the bush, but the CCTVs will naturally lead the police to the persons who committed these offenses. So instead of only having televisions in the LTs and the VVIPs and the VIP vehicles, they should also, maybe the DVLA through Parliament may pass a bill to also include that for such vehicles, including STC and the rest of them, those using it for commercial purposes, should, by and large, ensure that they have CCTVs on these vehicles, so that when you are even attacked, God forbid, even in the thickest of forests, the facility should be available to at least uncover the modus, which is very important, and then the persons involved in committing such a crime. When people are aware of this, not only will drivers in particular and even passengers behave well on the road, but people who have made it their business to commit crime on the road may think twice. Because yes, crime may never end, but the idea that you'll be caught, and when you are caught, the judicial system will convict you in accordance with law, largely demotivate people from considering whether or not to commit an offense. Again, we spoke about police barracks. Yes, we must still learn from others that where a person, where a police officer has to go to work, say at Adabraka, you may find him living at Adenta in Mufti. And being well trained, they are able to detect crime, some of them even by the lenses they wear or the watches they have on them. These don't have to be provided for police officers alone. It may also be provided for others. Again, shops and supermarkets. I think there should be an incentive for them to provide CCTVs, and also individuals who can afford them, to cover a range, not only within their homes or various residences or shops, but a range that where a crime is committed in that range, by that private provision of security, it will assist the police. I mean, these things are available, and we do not think that it is more expensive than human life, even one human life. So I think in the next parliament, in particular, matters like this should be very fundamental to them, and ensure that these basic provisions are made. We should not only be looking just at police recruitment or immigration recruitment. Recruit private persons and provide residences and accommodation for them to live in their communities. We should also enhance the education system right from maybe the basic SHS or JSS, I should say, where people should be conscious. Years ago, people were reporting their parents who were hatching plans to even commit offenses or defraud the state. I think that reasonably we should go to that civic education, the love for the nation, so that, because it is when the state is seen to be protecting the people, and it is where individuals are seen to be concerned about and for the life of others that we can happily say that we are living in a nation that protects us, where there is people are disgruntled.
Okay.
And where there is despondency, people's trust in the state equally reduces. And that is not good for us.
All right. Thank you very much, lawyer. Franklin, your final one on this issue.
Well, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Well, thank you. I think a lot of excellent points have been made. But I think we need to admit also that there are certain pointers that we need to be taking interest in. We need to look at the multidimensional aspect of these particular issues. And here I like to mention the economic angle. I don't think we should be looking at just the hard physical responses. We must also be looking at the soft issues. And the soft issues seems to have been lost in this conversation, which is whether our democracy is delivering the dividends that allows inclusive, enjoyment of the spoils of politics. I think it's very fundamental. So when I look at the trajectory, when I look at the data of some of the places where these robberies are taking place, they seem to be around places where roads are probably badly constructed. I still do not understand why most of our highways into the countryside are still bereft of some serious, infrastructure. Look at the road from Accra to Kumasi. For eons, we still do not have a very smooth road. So there are patches of it where people could harbor themselves as criminals and attack people. But the question really, fundamentally, is to ask ourselves, have we taken a look at the multidimensional statistics on poverty, because it's growing? Have we taken a look at the issues around how we design policies instead of sloganeering them? I think these are all important. I'm not making excuses for crime. I'm just saying that the countries we like to cite for which crimes are low, apart from the physical interaction, physical vigilance, cameras and what have you, the modicum of life in terms of people aching out a living are pretty much sustainable. I think we should, next parliament or next administration should take a critical look at these factors and also think clearly that now that we have COVID seems to have exposed a lot more vulnerable people who otherwise were not even part of the economy in the first place. Now, it's not everybody who may be motivated to take up arms, but even the silence of people themselves is not good for a country that wants to call itself a lower middle income country on its path to becoming a higher middle income country. So the economic dimension, the soft issues must also be looked at. Roads needs to be constructed properly. And for the life of me, I don't know whether East Legon is the only place on earth in this country. They tend to get the most lucrative of routes every now and then. There's a by-election, they got routes. Elections are coming, they got most of the smooth routes. You see, you cannot be centralizing governance and hope that the other parts of the country will be happy with you, which is what leads me to my final comment about what the president had wanted to do in terms of taking governance to the doorsteps of people. Sadly, this issue was politicized, and I think that unfortunately the president withdrew. It could have been one of the first best steps to ensuring that people in the countryside have an understanding of what governance is and can feel it by making decisions of their own. While at it, while Parliament may be the primus inter pares in this case, being the party that is mourning right now, even though we mourn with them, they should also be considerate. Whenever bills have been brought, plans have been brought for road construction, for any type of project, multi-million-dollar project, which they pass with the speed of light. In fact, the last time, I think last 2 weeks or so, there were just about 15 people in Parliament or so. I think the network spectator. But they passed almost $200 million worth of deals with little scrutiny. And that worries a lot of people. I mean, if a modicum of scrutiny would have been done, maybe we could have saved close to 15 or 20 million B. I could have been used to pave some road that had all these incessant attacks. So it's a multidimensional issue, and I think we should be looking at the conversation beyond the hard physical realities of what giving the police arms, which is also very important, by the way. And let me just land by saying something I said last week here. As always, the military intelligence and even within the security, and I totally agree with my good brother, who is the chairman of the Defense Intelligence Committee, that they know everything. They know everything. The security of this country, the couples know a whole lot. And I mentioned to you that the Defense Intelligence military asked us to join them to have a conversation about somewhere in May. And the NIB, what's it called? The BNI boss was in there as well. And we discussed all these hotspots and some of these surprises that could happen. We know. As always, it is the responses from the political authority that matters in these conversations.
All right. Thank you, Franklin. Colonel Festus Abuaje, we'll take your final comments. I would like you to touch on how, in the short term, with the elections ahead going into the new year, how this issue of insecurity can be faced.
Thank you, and thanks for having me last with just a couple of minutes left. Let me touch on the point made by Lawyer Fong on CCTVs. He said there must be incentives. I would wish to suggest that there must be a law that mandates all government, public, commercial facilities to have an array of CCTVs, including within public spheres like at street lights and certain junctions and so on and so forth. That would help to create a certain kind of security network. Now, I want to suggest that per our population, assuming that we're about 30 million, we need 60,000 police officers, going by the UN standard. Police, I'm told, currently has about 37,000. So there is a shortfall of 23,000 police men and women. We need to have a program within a reasonable time frame to recruit 23,000 more police officers. And then add to that the requisite equipment and training and so on and so forth. Now, I think the police must help in providing regular, up-to-date crime statistics that are disaggregated to help inform conversations like this. So we know which crime occurred against which targets and why and where and so on and so forth. That will help to enrich the conversation as to how best we can reinforce the national security. Now, coming to election security management, this is a very sore point. We might not all agree, but definitely we go by what we saw during the registration exercise. There is a lot more that we need to do. The first thing is that parallel to the election security management body, if the military are going to be deployed, they must be part group called Election Security Management Task Force under the command of the police, in which case the military supports the police and other security services. Any parallel deployment of the military, trust me, will worsen the perception of national security more than reinforce it. And I think there's a point made by the Member of Parliament for Ningo-Prampram that our focus must not be on election alone, but definitely in the run-up to 7th December, given the high stakes, there is likely to be incidents of vigilantism. And this is where we need to be very, very careful. That beyond what the President is saying, police must be professional. They must not be seen to be partisan. and they must act resolutely in dealing with all cases of infractions, the use of force by whatever element. And I would wish to suggest once again that that element, the nebulous element that we call national security operations, must not be part of any election security management system. If we're not going to take efforts to actually dismantle them, at least we must not, try and worsen the security situation by making them part of the system. Bottom line, police visibility needs to increase. If we don't find the police officers, men and women, to be up and about within the communities on a regular or routine basis, we're not going to help. So these are the few points that I would wish to make. The other points I think I've made previously.
All right. We are glad you joined us, Colonel Festus Abuaji, retired there. Lord on Twitter says, on the issue of the murder of the Member of Parliament, I think it's a sad one. The police should be prompt with investigation. It's just sad that every time a bounty is placed on the heads of the murderers, but 9 over 10 times these cases end up nowhere. It's a shame, you say. Kwekuesa says what happened to the MP is definitely unfortunate. It brings into focus general shortfalls in the security of all Ghanaians. In addressing this matter, we shouldn't begin by comparing ourselves with other jurisdictions. Okay, there's one other message coming from Acheampong, and she says there are many things I want to say about the issues on today's program, but due to time, I would only comment about the MP's demand for security. It is not our responsibility to give them security. What happens to the many of us plying the roads in our homes, offices, etc.? Thank you so much for your messages. This is still the big issue on Citi FM and Citi TV. We will delve into other issues after this break. Don't go away.
Play the golden goal on Bet Planet today with just 20 Ghana Cedis. You could win a Mercedes and 100,000 Ghana Cedi worth of prizes. This advert has been vetted and approved by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. Bet responsibly, not for persons below the age of 8.
What's poppin'? Brand new dramas. That's what. Ethan Hawke leads a group of freedom fighters in the daring battle to end slavery in Mnet's brand new historical miniseries. We're gonna start a revolution. And the rebellious daughter must step up and take the reins of her late father's criminal enterprise in Africa Magic's brand new local series.
What do I do?
What else is poppin'? Brand new pop-up channels. That's what's poppin'. We're serving up family dramas and intrigue galore in The Beloved Man on the new telenovelas channel.
Citizens, we cannot allow this situation to go on.
We're packing a punch with the kung fu adventures of the Chinese Odyssey on the brand new Kicks channel. And we're going crazy over arts and crafts with Cooksey on the new Zumu channel. So pop on over to DSTV for the best of brand new this month.
You're welcome back to the big issue on Citi FM and Citi TV. Now, yesterday the EC ended the processes for filing of nomination for the aspirants, the members of parliament aspirants, as well as the presidential candidates. Now, during the week, the president went to submit his forms. The NDC's General Secretary, Johnson Asiedu Nketia, was also there to file on behalf of former President John Dramani Mahama. And a number of concerns were raised. The president said the issues that are being picked up, that are the comments going around, especially from the opposition NDC, that they are questioning the EC's work and the credibility of what has been done so far. The president says he has absolute trust in the work being done by the Electoral Commission. Now, subsequently, the NDC's General Secretary says they do not understand why the submission processes are ongoing and the parties do not even have the register. The NDC flag bearer was in Seshiyo, so and again reiterated his points that the EC should not, or any other institution, should not make any attempt to subvert the will of the people with regards to the December election. So we'll quickly touch on that. And let me begin with you, Honorable Sam George, on really the Electoral Commission says they are doing their work, but it seems your party remains unhappy every step of the way.
Because there is no cause to be happy. You're going into an election. If you ask me today, I filed on Thursday. If you ask me today, do I have a copy of the register that is going to be used for my election? No. Thankfully, I filed in 2016. In 2016, when I filed, by the time I filed, I knew what register was going to be used. So I knew how to start working towards the register. We don't have a register. There is no register today. That is the Electoral Commission's register. You don't do an election with a provisional register. You do an election with a certified register. The Electoral Commission by law is supposed to provide us the provisional register, allow the political parties do their vetting and raise their issues, and all of those things are taken on board through IPAC before we have a certified register. Today, we don't have a register. It's like going to play football and you don't know what kind of, whether the referee is bringing a football or a volleyball for you to play a football match. That is where we find ourselves. But you would hear the President Akufo-Addo being happy because I have said Jean Mensa is effectively his minister for re-election. That she is working towards making sure
she's the chairperson of the Electoral Commission.
Forget.
That's an independent institution.
What is independent?
You don't think the EC is independent?
Not Jean Mensa's led EC.
Was the EC independent in 2016?
If they were not independent, would they have declared the result against us?
So what is different?
Have you heard the Deputy Electoral Commissioner, Bosman Asare, say that the NDC is a threat to democracy? Have you heard him say that? Is that the statement that comes from a fair person? Is that a statement that comes from a fair person? Haven't you realized that Jean Mensa has botched every single phase of this registration? Look, even the one-day registration, the Sakawa one-day registration that she did on the 1st of October, one-day registration, even that one, they had mixed up numbers. You claim you had a problem in the general registration. We told you it is simply because you are incompetent. And then you say, oh, I'm coming to do a one-day one. At least shame us more.
Well, they detected and corrected. At least they told you about it.
It's like a gynecologist telling you that he did a cesarean section on you and forgot the knife, the scalpel inside your uterus, and told you that after you've left it, you are experiencing the pain. I did a scan and I detected that I left it. So we should clap for the gynecologist who left the scalpel in your uterus. That's what we are saying. Look, bottom line, this Electoral Commission is, if you take a dictionary today, if you take the latest version of the Webster's Dictionary, and you scroll to the word incompetence, you see Jean Mensa and Bosman Asare's picture there. Look, these people simply are taking this country down a perilous path. But it's simply because, like I said at the beginning of this show, God is a Ghanaian. He'll put them to shame. He will save our democracy. But left for them. Look, have you seen, people say we are not worthy of security. Have you seen Jean Mensa going to work now? Have you seen her going to work recently?
Her position, the position she occupies.
Right. We didn't see her Farijan.
We didn't see her Farijan.
Why is she the first EC boss? We didn't see her Farijan. We didn't see Charlotte Osei. When she's going to work, it's a convoy of 3 cars, heavily armed police and military. Even when she's coming to Parliament to meet with MPs to approve her budget, she came with soldiers to Parliament. Why? Harun Idrisu and Osache Mensa both were going to shoot her or kill her. To Parliament, she came with soldiers. Go and drive by her house near Auntie Muniwache. You will see.
What does that got to do with her work?
It is only when you know that you have skeletons in your cupboard you'll be afraid of shadows. They say it is only old ladies who get afraid when they mention dry bones. What is she afraid of? If she's doing the right thing, what is she afraid of? That's what I'm saying. Did you not see Charlotte Osei? Did you not see Afaraja? Did you see them go to work in a convoy of 3 cars? The police will block that roundabout. Then they do an illegal U-turn every day. Every day, me, I meet here. Because when I'm going to Parliament, that's my route. And strangely, almost every day, I'm stopped because she has to do a U-turn with her convoy of soldiers and police. If you are doing the right thing, simple registration and giving numbers on your own fee, you can do. And you say you can conduct an election. Now, we don't even know what is the total number of registered voters in the election we are going to. We are 60 days from the election, or 58 or 59 days. Abena, you know everything in this world, you. Because the kind of questions you ask, how many people are on the AC register? If this was National Maths and Science quiz, you fail. Because there is no definite answer. Nobody knows how many people are on the register. How then can you have confidence in such incompetence?
At least give them the benefit of the doubt.
How do I give you benefit of the doubt?
They tell you the work is underway. Honorable Acheampong, is it that some of the concerns they are raising, they do not worry the MPP?
I'm very much surprised that they even went ahead and filed.
It's because we love this country.
Because they run the entire institution which is going to adjudicate on their behalf down, as if it is non-existent. I'm sometimes amazed when I listen to my friends in the NDC speak about the Electoral Commission. But typically when you're in opposition, you must be that tough and strong on who is superintendent over the elections. But I don't think this is the way we went about it. We did not run the EC down like they're doing this day. It's unfair for the persons that I'm not supposed to defend them. But I think I have said, and I'm on record, that where there are errors, the EC must come out and answer to the people of this country, because it is the life of the state that they are presiding over. And for me, once you are in this dispensation, democracy, they are the ones, they are the judges, they are the arbiters. Going forward, please, and I'll keep on saying this, we are ready for these elections. And we call on the EC to make sure that everything necessary to ensure that there is a free, fair exercise occurs. That is all that we say. Happily, the filings came to a closure yesterday, and I'm sure all competitors, all interested parties are coming up to the table. We should go ahead and keep selling our messages out to the people. Like the president of the land said, he's got confidence that we're going to hold a free and fair elections. To the matters of security and all that, I don't want to worry my head over them, being that we need to provide security for important personnel in this country. It's very necessary. We are calling, I've always said so, that we need to protect all statesmen who are serving instead of the state. We have to protect them adequately.
Franklin, I'd like you to...
I did not finish my conversation on the earlier matter on security.
Okay, before we wrap up the show, I'd like you make a final comment on that. But Franklin, let's look at the numbers, the number of people filing for the presidential race. We have as many as 17.
First of all, let me just address the issue of the EC. I sound like a broken record anytime the EC comes. I think incompetence is an understatement, really, and we can only wish them well in this election. Look, a lot has been said about the numbers. The EC, I started to think that they even know the numbers that will be finally on the register. I don't know. I don't think they I don't know what they are doing, seriously. But having said that, that phase of filing is just the easier one, which they have competently delivered. The issue really is that if 17 people are filing, well, it tells you there's an interest in the affairs of the state, for which people may be interested in. And you can't begrudge people who who want to contest, really. 17, for me, I thought we were going to be a lot more, actually. But 17 is fine. I just hope that they deliver a good election. And as I said, you don't want to be making statements that show that the elections could be in jeopardy. But the inhabitants themselves are just engaging in a lot of comedy of errors, really. And Shakespeare's good read comes to mind. That's all I've got to say. I have nothing more to say about the EC. They've delivered a lot of incompetence in the past, except to say that acknowledge them well. So,
Lawyer Paul.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that once again, the views that have been expressed also go to show that state institutions must also recognize that the rank and file are watching and that they hold them accountable in whatever they do. But if you ask me, I think that the errors that have been detected, of course, and the point is the fact that they have been detected also attests to the fact that at least people are working. It may not be adequate.
No, yeah, I agree. You see, let me just jump in here. We spent almost $100 and something million, and they told us they are procuring the best super machines. At the time we procured the last machines, some of these errors were not even seen. Right? So now...
Well, does it not mean that it is these very machines that have facilitated the uncovering of these errors?
No, but these errors are so elementary and so basic that they shouldn't have been come up with a super competent machine. That's the point we are making.
Well, that's your point. But I'm saying that, first of all, the detection of these errors, fundamental though they may be or basic, may also be because of the facilities that have been procured and some level of competence of the persons who are entrusted with the power and the authority to manage the affairs. As for registers, the law recognizes that we may not be able to get a perfect register at the first instance. And that is why there's always opportunity for us to go back and cross-check. Fortunately, these days, you don't have to go to the place that you registered. Facilities technology has made it possible for you in the comfort of your home to cross-check. The law recognizes that these are human institutions. I mean, it is the reason why...
Even that was bundled in the 2016.
Franklin.
Let you go on. I mean, it's, two of us are from Cudjoe. We didn't do very well, so let us interact here.
I think these are issues he's raised in the past. Yeah.
No, but let's look as if the
EC... I can accommodate that.
Look, this whole thing about texting was done in 2016. It was flawless. In this instance, you can actually test from your home. And if you make a mistake of not going to the center to check, your name may be somewhere else. The problem with the EC is that these problems they realized they didn't come forward with them. It was others who realized the problem, and when they were told, they first said they were lying. Then eventually they said, okay, we agree. That's the problem.
I can imagine. But that is fine. But I think that moving forward, I think it is so important for us to at least have some reasonable amount of trust in the EC, because I mean, if we at this stage, and I remember Dr. Farijan was credited to have said that politicians are very strange people indeed, and therefore if you are an EC person or a commissioner, you have to listen to them, but at the same time you have to match whatever you hear also against the mandate given you. And so when these errors are detected and when these matters are also brought to the fore, I think that the EC must also listen, that is if they haven't in the past, and take into consideration all these matters that come up. But let us also let them feel that we trust them, because when there is that mistrust, then there will be created some confusion, and the person who has the mandate to do so may also feel that, well, there is a mistrust anyway. There has been this consistent exhibition of mistrust by persons, I would say political parties, but individuals who want to contest forthcoming elections, usually to raise issues of incompetence and mistrust. At the end of the day, on all the occasions, we have been successful in transferring power, even sometimes in the most unlikely manner, to another person totally unconnected with the person who was declared not to be the winner. I mean, the last election, I have said that if we are to trust our ECs, and by the way, as the Supreme Court said, elections are won at the polling stations. I mean, I do not think that any person, be that person's security or the EC, has the capacity to rig any election in this country, as they have never been able to do so in the past. So even in 1992, when we used opaque ballot boxes, some people cried that there was stolen verdict and so on. But by and large, it is believed that the proper person was elected. When there was a dispute about the proper person not being declared the winner, we went to Supreme Court. The highest court said no. From all the circumstances of the case, the numbers from the polling station, the vigilance of your own or lack of it, which you should take the blame of the polling agents, the vigilance of other persons who are to also be available at the counting sections and the counting locations, they all appended their signatures, or where they disputed, it has been minimal. After all this, how is it possible for a particular EC person in say, Accra, who is a returning officer, be able to rig a presidential election or be able to rig parliamentary elections? It doesn't happen. There may be serious contestations, as happened in my today's found friend, Mr. Jate's constituency, very hotly contested. Even the primaries were. And yet, he came out the winner. And there is the legitimacy given to all the people who were elected, whether as president or as a member of parliament. Let us also trust in the institutions that also take over the dispute adjudication. Consistently, we have come out as winners when we have trusted our institutions. Because beyond the dispute between the EC and other persons and the administrator, the courts are there.
Lawyer, for you, so the challenges that are being pointed out by some opposition parties and all that, in the long run, it will not affect the entirety of the work of the EC with regard to the elections.
Substantially, there's no evidence to the effect that in the past it has happened. And I do not agree that the EC is constituted by one particular person or two particular persons. It is an institution. In fact, we don't have electoral commissioner as in one person. They are commissions, commission members. And one person is a chairperson of the commission. And so how is the conduct of one person or two of them, or even the top three, going to affect? I mean, if you look at the circumstances that happened after the 2016 election, where even each of the commissioners was criticizing the other, blaming the other for one even creating polling stations that never was sanctioned, and all the problems that came up, accusation and counter-accusation, we still agree that that election was flawless. And let us also look forward to another flawless election. Of course, elections is not an event. They are a series of proceedings and matters that ensure that elections are credible. And I think that so far, a lot has been done in that direction. Let us trust our institutions.
Thank you for that. Honorable Acheampong, it looks like for some people who are not happy with the processes being done by the EC so far, they think it will have an effect on the outcome of the elections.
I'm glad that today Franklin said that with the filing they competently did it. And it's good to criticize every person. Criticism makes you a better person. So I always welcome criticism. But let us not overstay our criticisms. I think that it is an improving society. I have criticized the EC now that I think that the errors were over. They were unprecedented. But they came back. They did their own self-introspection. that tells me, gives me some confidence that the people are aware that they are human, they make errors, and then they adjust. And for me, that is where my confidence emanates. I think that where they have erred, we have said and we have made it clear to them, indeed, they have responded appropriately. And we should give them the benefit of the doubt. I would say so. I've been in the business for a while, I'm not new. So I know what I experienced in 2008. I know what I experienced in 2012. I know what we experienced in 2016. 2012, we experienced worse situations that we are experiencing now. I was a candidate at the time. So that's why I'm cautious and I speak from that position of experience.
Okay, let's talk about the numbers. 17 people have filed to they want to be in the president's spot now.
Is Ghana not such a beautiful country? That tells you how vibrancy we are as a democracy. Everybody wants to express themselves and people are encouraged. If it was a failed state, people will not be rushing to lead a state. Everybody believes in themselves and they believe that they can express themselves through leadership. That's why they are rushing to be seen as presidents of the country, so they will lead us. That's a beautiful country. That's the beauty of our state. And for me, it tells it all that this is a state that we all enjoy. And it's a very safe state. If a country was run down, those people who are getting ready for themselves to be in office, they'll be running to other places to seek asylum. So the security of the state is very there, intact.
Okay. I
would have ended with with what my colleagues were talking about community policing, where you have security service personnel stay in our communities. Yes, it is. It's just that the strategy changes. We do Operation Calm Life. We do all those other deployments, all during a particular season. Once we were doing the city tents for visibility. So we did the tents, vantage points, selected vantage points. Today, when you're driving around, you find out a lot more of cameras are being mounted. We're beginning to realize that, you see, our ratio is 1:808. We used to be around 32,000. This administration have raised the police numbers to over 37,000.
It can still be better.
Oh, no, more. There's more room for improvement. We are supposed to be 1:500. per police. That's the United Nations standard. We are 1:808 as of now, even raising it from 32 to 37,000. So it must speak to you the gap. That is where I enjoy the point when Franklin spoke about the soft nature. That is where you require the economy to be available, because it must come with a commensurate sum to make sure that whatever you are going to do, you have the requisite funding to sustain and make sure that you maintain whatever you initiate. And so all that we do, we want adequate security, but it comes with what you have in your pocket.
Okay.
And that falls down on the economy.
All right.
And so I was happy when he said the security services, they know everything. I was in an analysis. Unfortunately, Festus wasn't there. He used to be. I don't know why he couldn't come for this dialogue this week. And he talked, that was when he made a point that when the military is going to be put out, it is to acknowledge every time we're going to hold an elections, the election security task force is headed by the IGP, the Ghana Police Service, because it's a homeland exercise. And that is what we do. However, because their numbers are inadequate, we do joint operations. And in the joint operations, they work hand in hand with the police service. And command is in the hands of the Ghana Police Service.
All right. Lawyer, I would like to take your view on the people who have filed to contest to be president. The Honorable Acheampong believes it's because of how well managed the Akufo-Addo administration have made the country, and so it's really attractive.
Well, except I didn't hear him specifically mention the Akufo-Addo administration. But I think he mentioned how well the country has been managed. I mean, up to this time, I think in all fairness, maybe there has been a better performance, but I mean, there has been the foundation over the years, and it's been built upon. This is not the first time that quite a number of these people also contested in the previous elections. You remember that even in 2008, I believe, Honorable's own party, about 17 people contested.
That is 2007.
So perhaps we may say that President Akufo had managed the country so well that
within his party at that time.
Within the country, by and large.
But then by and large, I mean, over the years, most of these people, including our great mother, Ekow, has had to contest. Sometimes, with all due respect, you wonder. But I think maybe the sentimental attachment is also very important. I mean, just to be bold enough to offer yourself to contest presidential election is not an easy thing. It is not just a given to almost everybody. Some people may just not want to be part of the rigmarole and the serious intimidation and sometimes energy sapping and the expenditure of enormous financial and other resources alone will put you away. So for them to be bold enough to contest, that also attests to the fact that there are very bold people here. But one thing also is, I think we should also recognize that we need not be president to positively affect the lives of the ordinary Ghanaians in this country. And that should also tell whoever will win that there are equally or relatively competent persons like that person who will win the next election. And it's important to bring on board those who are willing and may share in the policies and the general well-being considerations of the people of Ghana, to bring them together, maybe form a committee or so of former contestants, those who are willing to join a standing committee to assist the government. At the end of the day, they have all substantially provided manifestos. Franklin has gathered them. I think that we cannot say that there is any one of them whose manifesto does not make sense, even in a small bit. You can find one that can never be found in the money.
Yes, I can.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Hello?
Yes, you're on. You're on.
Yes, let me just conclude. So I'm saying that it is important that, in fact, even before the elections are held, the various political parties and the independent candidates should exchange their manifestos. They should go to Franklin. He has assembled all of them and perhaps match them against others. You may pay him a pittance for him to release a copy to you, so that you incorporate this, bearing in mind that the Constitution itself has provided under Article 6 directive principles of state policy guidelines. When these are put together, it is going to benefit all of us. But the idea that my manifesto is the only thing I'll work with because that is what the people of Ghana have voted for. Of course, we could just vote for one person, but we expect that the ideas expressed by others in their manifesto, however unknown they may be, there may be one or two things that you may incorporate. The danger is when you do so, they will say that you have stolen from their manifesto. And I think we need to caution ourselves against that as well. It's, at the end of the day, it is the rank and file, the people we aim to serve, that should benefit from this coordinated effort to consolidate the various ideas that have been expressed in the various manifestos, no matter who we may see that person to be. And so we wish all of them well. I think that with the people of Ghana have been given sufficient options to choose from. 17 is good enough, and we can just choose from that large number of people, and also on the side of the members of parliament also. We have been given sufficient number, and I think at the end of the day, we should choose the best that will ensure that our development is enhanced.
Okay. Franklin, you wanted to come in. Was it to talk about the debate?
Acheampong will be one of my designated ministers in 2024.
Oh.
Let me just say that, look, without a doubt, the point he makes is absolutely true. We need to be sure that the ideas that are espoused by each party or individual is brought up board. And having looked at almost 8 of the manifestos or policy statements so far, you see some common ideas here and there, and some even a little bit audacious and probably a little better, you know. And I think it is important that we look at all of this, but they must debate. Next Thursday, we have a debate for 5 of the minority parties. We've asked the president, he says he's busy forever. John Mahama has accepted, but we want a debate between the two of them. And we hope that...
But the danger is the description of minority. Your minority today may be a majority in the next future. So,
you know the interesting bit about that terminology, that characterization. When we started to use minor, they said minor is too small. We want minority.
Well, so don't add any adjective. They are contestants.
So they are parties.
They are parties. They are political parties.
Yes, they are.
Okay. Individuals, they are contestants.
Yeah, I agree with you.
All right. Okay. Let me bring in some messages before we take another break. Okay, I agree with Honorable Sam George. What will happen if the EC disqualifies a candidate or party because they have been endorsed by someone whose name is not in the register, although they have an ID? That's from Pascal Atanyako. Okay, from AA, tell Lawyer Opon that the EC can rig this year's elections because the new voters register is being compiled. Okay, you are alleging that the EC can suppress one stronghold and elections can only be won at the polling station if the voter register is being compiled without bias. Okay. Rex from Spintex. Elections is a process and not an event. If there's a flawed electoral database that can allow multiple voting, it could lead to rigging. At present, the duplication of the voter's ID is a recipe for chaos. EC has not even heeded to the publishing of names of those people. Okay. From Bright in Dansoman, I agree with some George. Adequate security must be provided to the MPs, not the Speaker and other leaders only. I salute your panelists. My condolences to the bereaved family of the late MP Hayford. I think the National Security Minister Kandapa, the Minister of Interior and the IGP must be up and doing because the lawlessness in our country is out of hand. It is good that members of parliament are seeking for self-police security, but they should not also forget about the citizenry. Okay, that's from Peter in Asisewa. Eric from Nungwa. If we keep on recruiting party members into our security setup, you say national security, most of these people who cannot read and write, which intelligence can they gather? Okay, Farouk, I had your message already. Abladi from Efiekuma Zongo in Takrade, who is calling for swift investigations of the Mfantsiman MP's death. Is this the first time an MP was killed? The late JB's investigation, well, that case is still in courts. Okay. Thank you for your message. Thank you for your message. All right. From Benoforin Sapeman, it looks like this government has not done enough about security in the country, you say. Okay. Thank you very much for your messages. This is still the big issue on Citi FM and Citi TV. After this break, we'll tell you about how floods have affected parts of the national capital, again, following this morning and last night's rain.
It is Christmas. What do you want for Christmas? A new car, a vacation, or expand your business? Make your wish and have it come true in the 100 days of Christmas with a Republic Bank Christmas loan. The Republic Christmas loan is quick, easy, and so affordable with super fast turnaround time. Come into any of our branches nationwide. Call or WhatsApp 055-654-3212 or apply online via republicghana.com. Remember, wear your nose mask, stay safe. Republic Bank, we are the one for you.
Play the golden goal on Bet Planet today with just 20 Ghana cedis. You could win a Mercedes and 100,000 Ghana cedi worth of prizes. This advert has been vetted and approved by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. Bet responsibly, not for persons below the age of 8.
Election 2020, Ghana makes a choice. Tracking and bringing you reports of the presidential and parliamentary campaigns across the length and breadth of this nation.
Analyzing campaign activities and election data with our panelists on the Voters' Diary.
The Voters' Diary is the most factual, instructive, and balanced election 2020 analysis program on television.
The Voters' Diary every weekday on Citi TV from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m.
Stay informed on all the relevant issues on election 2020.
Tune into the Voters' Diary. It's Ghana's choice.
You're welcome back. The program is The Big Issue. We are on Citi FM and Citi TV. Now, as I mentioned before the break, it's been raining in the national capital. I don't know about other parts of the country. Reports we are gathering is that some parts have been flooded. My colleague Caleb Kuda has joined us via telephone. Caleb, where are you and what's the situation there?
Right, Abena. So I am at Shalom Estate. This is in Adenta, but it falls under the Medina constituency. And the entire place is flooded. If you can hear in the background, rainwaters are gushing out of drains that are flooded. So it submerged the entire area. There are homes I have entered and all. Everywhere you go to is flooded. And look at particular gutter here that has been choked. I understand from the residents here that there is a real estate developer who's built or developed a facility that is on the waterway, and so much of the water is able to flow with the sea at which it would have. So it has re-channeled its way into their homes. This morning, many of them are counting their losses, and you can tell that if rainwaters are running down from the three mountains through Oyarepa through an estate as a delta, the impact really will be devastating. With me is one of the affected residents, Abena, that I would like to interact with really shortly. His name is Jeffrey. How long have you lived here?
I lived here for almost about 4 months now.
What's the impact? Is this usually what happens all the time?
Yeah, this happens all the time when it rains. Every single time. Today's situation is living, I think, one of the least I've seen.
Wow. I've been to the homes of some of your neighbors. Their homes, kitchens, in fact, the compounds are all submerged. Is that the same for you?
Yes, that is the same for me. I think as of yesterday, I went to the supermarket to actually continue my hustling. I came back to pick my laptop, my documents, my fridge, everything.
And now what's interesting is that on our way here, we saw a campaign team for the NDC. They were braving the flood. People actually walking through the flood waters and campaigning and speaking to most of the residents here. They are quite upset at both political parties because they tell me that this has been a perennial issue and none of the political parties have been able to deal with it properly for them. What's very disturbing is I see a drinking spot somewhere in a chair that is totally submerged, and the owner of that drinking spot has 3 little children, and the floodwaters have flooded the gutter and spilled into her bar, and her boys are really, really very small. The gutter is such that anyone can fall into it. In fact, as I speak to you, while trying to engage the woman, my cameraman actually fell into the gutter. So it's a perilous situation here at Shalom Estate somewhere in Adenta, Taxi.
For those watching on television, they've seen the videos from where Caleb is reporting the Adenta area. Have they had any help yet? How did they pass the night?
There hasn't been help as I speak to you. There is a home that I thought nobody could actually stay in because of just how badly flooded it looked. But as I speak to you, I can tell there's a woman, I see a woman out here with her son, and I need to be careful because there's a gutter trying to get close so we can enter. There is no help as I speak here, not in that boat. Those who have been here are party people.
Okay.
I'm close to a woman here, and Abena, it is.
Caleb?
Yes, Abena, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Good.
Oh.
Who said, and you know, how come I didn't know before? What them were hot.
And she won't show dining in a minute, Colafo, and they were dining. And 25, I say, and your man good. They would million Colafada, and your man so. And you damn Panasopla, and said, they will not use you.
It's the see that.
That I say, it's near more than near would be cry.
Now, I should actually, it's almost getting to the level of your pot.
And have something less that.
The question was now.
Many times, 1 year.
Because what now?
I need to be a well, they need to be a.
And surely, such a between one and the babies and when you want to buy a penny for beer or more than
like I said, I need to think will be about to become the other.
Can pay me that NDC for the Mongo, you know, go for the campaign. Practice living in a mobile campaign.
If I try,
I hope I saw her son and say, how do you benefit from us?
Many to me, the Macassar, I need so much from the effect to the quality. The party is a letter of an and that because they are Mr. Mutian to him one. And to me, them and call answer for or none could be party.
So now she has 4 little boys, and she's actually doesn't choose with the system. They have not received any help so far. They are absolutely devastated. The situation here is actually devastating.
Yeah. I can understand. Caleb, thank you very much. Do take care of yourself, you and the entire crew. My colleague Caleb reporting from the Adenta area. We understand in Wager, parts of the road have been cut off. Cars are unable to move. That's how bad the situation is. Let me begin with our panelists on Zoom on this one. Franklin.
Well, I guess, I mean, it's a problem, and floods generally have become part and parcel of our livelihoods and life story, and I think it's affected livelihoods as well, from the north to every part of the country. Well, there are some conversations about the weather, the climate that is changing. The climate has always changed, and so somehow our adaptation levels have also got to be updated. People have said, and I've heard some of the experts say that we need to update the topographical maps of Accra because it's a low-lying area, and then find the areas that are choking these otherwise free flow of these waters into where they should go to. So, having said that, really, I mean, I think it's a matter of ending this needless lamentations every now and then. We always know that when the rains come, and in this case, the patterns have changed. Of course, as I said, the climate is changing, and we need to adapt. So for me, yet again, a national call to rallying our brains to fix the problem, really. And I think a significant amount of the problems could be fixed, and it has to do with the topographical nature, and if we have adapted our maps, we should be able to fix this problem.
All right, lawyer.
Yes, well, I think that this year, Lord, this is about the third time we are talking about this on this particular program. And Franklin and I were quite grateful to an engineer who came on your program on 2 occasions and spoke about the topographical architecture of Accra in particular. Well, my checks are that it's been raining in many parts of the country, but obviously, usually, the damage to property and persons in Accra prevails over or supersedes what happens elsewhere. It's becoming too predictable to the extent that previously some persons wanted to stake a bet on it. It used to be in July, August, thereabout. Now it is in October. There's no doubt that we need these rains. I mean, those of us who are farmers, we were really praying to God that it will start raining. That's last month. It was quite terrible. And so we like these rains until we fashion out a proper, comprehensive irrigation system. We need these rains. But it still bothers me that we are not able to create enclaves that should collect these rains or the rains when they fall, and also to then distribute them in a mechanized way. Rather, we lament when it is not raining, and we lament when it is raining. I think God must be so forgiving that we cannot but push this thing beyond the limit. We have the human ingenuity and innovation and machinery to solve this problem. It is not an insurmountable problem. But we will come here next June and July, talk about the same thing, express our views on what should be done, and now it is becoming a dual annual affair. We will come back in October and repeat the same thing. In spite of all the monies that we have pumped into these areas, it is becoming so predictable that when it rains, and sometimes it is not the outrageous rains that happen elsewhere which cause so much. So when you say, oh, even in the US, they get these problems. But we should not compare ourselves to others in respect of problems that they have, but solutions they have provided to others. And we should also be the focal point for others to say that on this point, go to Ghana, they are doing better. Let's say the management of the COVID, for example, as an illustration. Everybody is saying that we've done very well as a people. So let us also commit ourselves to management of waste in particular. And let's even not call it waste, because it has now become resources for the manufacturing industry. So then also, we should change the narrative. People always talk about people are building in waterways. I mean, much as there may be some good sense in this, I mean, elsewhere there are buildings that are put up, massive buildings in waters anyway. It is about how we manage and leverage. Elsewhere, they take so much money from visitors just because they have managed to direct their rivers. They have established big facilities in these rivers, and they are earning a lot of money. For us, it's not becoming a resource. It is becoming a source of damage and even wastage for us. We should do something about it. It rained, it all, but let us find a better, innovative way to turn this risky facility or the what ends up after the rains into a venture that will earn us resources to develop other areas. Go to the Weja River or the Densu River. Fantastic environment, and yet it has become a source of injury instead of it becoming a source of a resource to us. Why can't we even expand it to receive these waters? Then we put fantastic boats on them to earn us some resources as being used as a tourist site where people can use. Go to the Kole. It shouldn't just continue to be a lavender hill. We should rather turn it into a viable elite place. Elsewhere, these are where people will pay hundreds of thousands of dollars just to acquire a plot of land in these areas, and not the airports with all the imminent risk that people are being subjected to. So why can't we develop this Korle area, for example? And when we do so, then there will be a facility there that can gather all these waters into the sea, or an enclave where we can use it as a wonderful tourist site. When we travel and they take so much money from us just because we sit on boats in the Netherlands and so on, you think that they didn't have these problems, but you can see a conscious effort to direct these rivers. They have actually made channels out of them, and it is earning them a lot of money. It has ceased to be the risky facility or matter that many years ago it used to be. Now it is a good resource.
Okay. Thank you very much, lawyer. Honorable, you have the final take on
Thank
this
you very
one.
much.
Our time is fast spent.
That's enough. They've talked about the major issues of the topography of Accra. I mean, there are certain major areas in Accra that low lying. So the rains, when runoffs come from, unfortunately, Accra is bordering the mountains. So all the rains that come from there runs through. And there is the history to this. Accra, whether they like it or not, the waterways, as lawyer was saying, it is true. When the place is low-lying, it's so easy for water to be trapped there. So they will affect buildings that have been developed in those areas.
But we've known about this for a very long time.
We've known about it, but the problem is very, very myriad. One, how we do town and country planning, the management of it, it's a whole subject for discussion. And our own behavior, our attitude, we're later around with no shame. And this is a cause of it. People would just peel off and with no sense of being clean and neat, drop those things off the road. They are the ones that aggregate and silt up the drainages that we have constructed, which are supposed to serve as waterways for these runoffs to flow into the main ones. And consciously, we took funds to develop the Oda Channel, although it's a river. It's not a gutter. But the same behavior and mentality drives us to keep it as a waste bin. It is not. We are supposed to have that culture and understanding and appreciate that those infrastructure are to enhance our well-being. You go and stand by the Odo, you can't even breathe. Okay. So these are the concerns. Our own selves are the causes of the issues.
Behavior.
And then when it happens, we need to vote monies. Look, for instance, when the speedways were opened by the Bagri Dam, the same areas they go to pass. You do proactive education, so preventive measures of NADMO will go and educate the people. But they have some ancestral linkages to where they live. They don't want to move.
And so it affects the whole education.
The whole education.
Thank you,
is where we
Honorable. I'm sure we'll have a broader conversation on these issues subsequently.
Yes, I'll be available.
But thank you very much. That's the Honorable Member of Parliament for Mpraeso, Seth Acheampong. Honorable Samnete George Ningo-Prampram was also here. Festus Abuaji joined us, Colonel, on Zoom. Opong, private legal practitioner, also joined us on Zoom, as well as Franklin Cudjoe, president of IMANI Africa. My name is Abena Mpraeso. Thank you so much for joining us today on The Big Issue on Citi FM and Citi TV. On behalf of the team, we are glad you watched and listened to the show. Goodbye.